Get ready for another open and honest conversation with my guest and my friend, Laura Brandenburg. We talk about zone of genius, why this is so important. It's critical, in my opinion. We talk about some tips and just lessons that Laura has learned over running her business, as well as being in real estate investing. And I think that for business owners and just even people interested in real estate investing are going to love these 3 lessons. They're so good. We also just open up. Laura was so honest about some self-doubt, fear, insecurities that she's had in her business. And we even talk about how she wound up in the hospital through burnout. And there was so much going on in her life, and it really gave her a reality check of what's important and how she wanted to proceed and move forward for a better, more healthier life. So I'm so thankful that she shared that story and just opened up with us. Before we dive in, I just want to share a little bit more about my guest. Laura Brandenburg, ACBA, CBAP, internationally recognized leader known for helping mid-career professionals start and succeed in business analysis careers. She is the founder of Bridging the Gap, the best-selling author of How to Start a Business Analysis Career, and the creator of the Business Analysis Blueprint certification program and the Applied Certification of Business Analysis, ACBA. Laura brings nearly 20 years of experience in the business analysis profession, filling several different full-time business analysis positions, as well as contributing as a consultant, hiring manager, trainer, and career coach. She believes that we build our profession one business analyst at a time, and her life purpose is to help others achieve more confidence and live their best life. Laura lives in Surf City, North Carolina with her husband and 2 daughters, 9 months each year, and spends the summer on Lake Michigan outside Traverse City, Michigan, while they rent their primary residence in North Carolina. And we talk about that and how that has generated multi-6-figure revenue for Laura and her family, which is awesome. So get ready. This is a great conversation, and let's dive in. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Laura, I'm so excited to have you on Crystal Uncorked. Welcome.
I am so excited to be here, Crystal. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Okay, let's start with what we're drinking, because I feel like you've got a special drink with you today.
I do. I opened a bottle of, it's called 45 Red from 45 North, which is a winery in the Leelanau Peninsula. And you and I have talked about that before, but there's it's sort of a somewhat unknown area for tons of wineries. And it's also kind of the cherry, it used to be the cherry capital of the world. There's a ton of cherries there as well, and a ton of vineyards. So this one, we just got introduced to this winery a year ago from my sister-in-law, and we brought a case home with us to North Carolina. So it's really delicious.
I love that. I have to go. When you told me about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this place sounds amazing. And I bet they've got some good cherry wines too.
Yeah. So one of the things about a lot of the wines there is they tend to be really sweet. And we find ourselves getting used to it over the summer. And so we don't bring a ton home, because when we get home, we're like, oh, it just doesn't taste the same. But this one, I'm even after 6 months, it's this one's tasting really good. So I feel like there's some drier wines that have started to come out of there too. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Well, cheers. I have a Chianti Classico. I'm on a Chianti Classico kick right now. So cheers.
Cheers.
All right. I am so excited for us to have this conversation. We've known each other for several years now. We've been in a mastermind together for several years. Something I love about you is when we bring up our questions in these masterminds, I can see you. Your wheels are kind of turning, and you take a few steps back to really understand, what's the root of this? What's the real question? And I feel like that's a superpower. I don't feel like everybody can do that, but I just wanted to say, like, I love that about you. And it's been so fun getting to know you and your business. I'm excited for Crystal Uncorked people to know more. So take a couple minutes here and tell us about Bridging the Gap, your business, and how you got started.
Yeah, so Bridging the Gap is an online training and certification company for business analysts. And business analyst is a role in a corporate environment. Usually they're on a big business process improvement project or a software project. They're helping ensure like the technology you build actually delivers some value for the business. So they're usually in the middle, quote unquote, bridging the gap between business and IT. And I started this business back in 2011, and I had a career in business analysis and managing a team of BAs and project managers and quality assurance professionals. And when I left corporate, I just started blogging about what I had done, and with the goal of doing that as a consultant. And what I found was people really wanted to learn how to get started in the career. And so like my business pivoted several times until we really landed on being a training company that we are today. So
I love it. About how many years did it take to really get to your solid core of what you do now?
You know, the materials that we're teaching now, we started teaching probably 3-ish years after we started the company. But the program, like the full program that we're delivering now called the Business Analyst Blueprint, that didn't really emerge until about 5 years ago. It actually coincides with my move to North Carolina, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about too. So there's an interesting parallel there.
Okay. Well, I feel like that's a good kind of segue into that because we love real estate investing. That's something that we share. And I know that you are doing some cool stuff there as well. So tell us about that side. So, I mean, would you consider that a business or it's just kind of more investing?
Yeah, it has kind of become a business. It didn't start out that way. But about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we decided we wanted to live on the water full time. We were living in Colorado at the time, and we had already bought our house in Michigan, on Lake Michigan there. And we like spent the summer in Michigan, and like I was just like my heart sank about going back to Colorado, even though we like loved Colorado. I mean, it's so beautiful. We lived in the forest. It was great. But like I realized I just really wanted to be by the water, but I didn't want to be in Michigan all the time. So we started to look at where we could live and found a house here in North Carolina, oceanfront house that also had rental income. So what we've been able to do is like we still wanted to spend our summers in Michigan, and that is also peak season here in North Carolina. So we rent our primary house for 3 months a year, and then we moved to North Carolina, and that's been successful enough that we were actually able to move into a second house a year and a half ago. And so now we're renting the first house out as full-time as possible and then doing the same thing with our now current home. So,
and are both of the homes that you have as investment properties, are they both in the same area?
Yeah, we're about a mile. Okay. Yeah, they're just a couple miles apart.
Yeah, and this is like on the beach. When I see your photos, when you guys are there, it just looks so, there's something so healing about it, like especially for somebody that needs to be near water, which is me. I don't need to be by the ocean. It's just there has to be water nearby. And seeing your girls play, and it just looks, I feel like there must be such relaxation as well as like inspiration for business. Do you feel like you have like these creative inspiration, motivation while you're there, or is it more like rest in peace?
A little bit of both. For me, I think like I remember the first moment we got here, or like that first couple of weeks, and I just felt so like cared for and nourished. Like it just was like, oh, like I didn't even realize how much I needed this. Like need is a big word in that, but like how much I wanted this, or how much this is just like taking care of me, and how it just felt like it opened me up to doing more. And so. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I get great ideas sitting out on the deck or walking along the beach, but it's more of just like, it just takes care of me.
Yeah, it's like fulfilling you. There's something inside of you that just, that missing puzzle piece or something that you just need.
Yeah.
I love it. And I mean, so you are making multi-6-figure income on your 2 real estate properties right now.
We are.
Which is awesome. Like, I am just newbie of real estate investing. I was sharing the other day how we're trying to invest in model homes because then the developer rents it back from you. So we don't have renters that we're dealing with, it's very easy. Like, nobody's really living in the house. So that's great. And I have a friend who does Airbnb and vacation rentals, kind of similar to you. And I mean, they're killing it. And you set up your systems. I'm sure you have your systems in place to be able to just take people in and flip the house for the next group and do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sure, there's some work involved in it, but it's just like such a great way to have another revenue stream.
Yeah. Yeah. And for us, when we first moved here, like it was a big, scary financial decision to like buy this $1 million plus house on the ocean. Right. And and we didn't even really fully realize how much it costs to maintain a house like that. So I mean, we knew that it was, but so having that rental income just took the edge off, and where our goal was not the rental income covers the mortgage and then some, but our goal was we can afford to live here, but now we can we have this huge buffer for maintenance and risk management. And so now it's starting to be an actual profit center. And then the equity in the house, both houses, has grown just with how the housing market is. So it's a huge source of wealth for us right now, as well.
Love it. Love it. I think what I love most about that is that you guys just followed your heart and you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and you just listened to yourself. I think so often we feel this pull to do something or go somewhere, and fear could creep in and hold us back, or the head trash, or what if, or all the stuff. And you guys did it and figured it out. And now it's another revenue stream, and now you're replicating it. It's just really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. People often ask, awesome. How do we find this place? And I was like, well, we were really, truly what you said, following our desire. It didn't start we were trying to engineer this whole system. It was well, where do we want to live? And then everything else worked out from there.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so my first question for you is actually one that you wrote for. You helped me. I threw out some questions and, hey, if there's anything you want to ask somebody, what would it be? And I loved your question about zone of genius. And so I want to know, what is your zone of genius? That thing that you're really good at, that you also really love, and when and how did you discover that?
Great question. So you actually called it in my intro. So I feel it's getting to that root cause of what's really truly the problem here. And with that also, I feel that's one piece of it. And I feel there's another around embedding my knowledge and expertise into a system. So that's what I really feel I've done within Bridging the Gap. Now I just see we've created this program, and it continues to support and help people beyond me. And there was a part of me that figured out what that needed to be and how that was going to solve the problem for our participant that they had of not having the confidence to get started and to move forward. And part of it's the content, but it's also the whole delivery of the program and how that really solves that problem for them. Yeah.
Right. I can so see that. That's funny. I can so see that being your zone of genius. Yeah. And that's great that you love doing it because you're so good at it. Did you ever have a time where you weren't really doing that though? I know as a business owner, we get so caught up in doing everything that sometimes we're not spending time on our zone of genius. And so things can feel harder or not as enjoyable. Did you just kind of always have that? It's a big part of what your business is, or did you kind of have to figure that out? And then once you got there, it flowed?
Yeah, I feel it's been a process of learning and unlearning and relearning, because it is that is a core strength of a business analyst. So in my corporate career, that is why when I fell into this career, my whole world just seemed to make sense. And then as a business owner, though, I think I kind of discounted it a little bit. And, we have especially when you're starting out, all the things that you feel you need to do. And so I was doing all the things, right? So there's been a sort of a refinding of it, which we've been on that journey together over the last several years of so what is it again? And what am I doing that fits within it and what doesn't? And kind of a shedding of the responsibilities that just don't make sense anymore.
Totally. And it's such a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's so something that you really have to work towards. But I think it's so important for people to know their zone of genius, because then it allows you to be in flow, and it allows you to sustain longer, I think, like less of the burnout when you're really doing stuff that you enjoy and that you're good at. Now, speaking of kind of like what you're good at, I love talking about made it moments where these can be big or small. It could be the first sale to I was interviewed by Oprah. I would love to know, what is one of your made it moments?
Yeah, I think, the first sale was a huge one for me. And I still remember like that feeling when like the first ebook sales came in. And that was about a year after I started my blog. But really the most powerful moment that comes up for me is when we did, like, we got here in North Carolina, and like we had bought our house like 6 months before or 5 months before. And then we'd spent the summer in Michigan because it was being rented. But like, there was just this moment of like, we got here and it was later at night and we were on the beach and my kids were running around in their pajamas, and like we did it. Like, we had worked so hard and done every manifesting tool in the book to like make this happen. And it's like, oh, we're here. Like, it's like we're done, like, in a way. Like it was definitely a moment where like we did something really hard, and also something really intentional and purposeful, and like from a place of like, we really wanted this and we made it happen.
Yes. Oh, I love it. It's cool when that happens, when you're like, I can see it and I feel it and I'm really clear on what I want. But obviously it's a process and it takes time. We have to be patient. And then all of a sudden, because it's a lot of work, and so you kind of forget like you're just doing everything. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, holy shit. Like, this is it. That we did it. You know, it's like, it's that made it moment, which is so fun. I love it. Now, tell me about, here on Crystal Uncorked, we're all about being open and honest. And so I would love to know a time when you felt self-doubt or insecurity or fear in your business and how you overcame that.
Yeah, like all the time. Is that like, not really, like, but yes, like I feel like it's a constant process as you're growing, right? But yeah. But the thing that I feel like I'm working through now, or have just recently worked through, is we are in the midst of hiring a really significant team member. So bringing somebody in as a director of operations, which you have watched me on that journey for the last probably 2 or 3 years of like, should I hire this person? Who is it going to be? Like, how much is it going to cost? Like, just in the circle of doubt and like, yo, wait, I don't need that. I can live without that. And like, no, I really need that. What's it going to look like? And like, we have that person who's starting within the next couple of months. And it's like locked at this point, and it's really exciting. And working through that was just like working through that. Right. And like also dialing into like, what is the true desire here? Why do I want this? Why is it important? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for the business? For me, a really big milestone too was last year, kind of going through this shift where I learned to see myself in relationship to my business, as opposed to like my identity completely wrapped up with the business. And so that also opened me up to like receive more support in the business. Like, I don't have to hold on to all the things. So that was a really big shift. So for me, it's like masterminds and coaching and just having the conversations is a big part of that. And then even like a month ago, I got scared again because I'm like, well, where's the money really going to come from? Right. And so I did some worst case scenario, like, okay, worst case for the year, if like our revenue doesn't grow and I'm paying this salary, like what's going to happen? Like, oh, right, we won't be out on the street. And oh, right, like we'll still have a little bit of cash reserves left, like it's not even close to, so just like having that worst case scenario in my mind, I think is a really big one too.
Yeah. I love that you share that, because I think a lot of people, including myself, struggle with investing in help, because we do, especially in the beginning, well, not even especially the beginning. It's like you are really looking at your budget and you're capable of doing a lot. And so, especially I feel like entrepreneurs, we're quick starts, we'll get stuff going, we'll get shit done, like we act and we have a vision of where we want to go. And it can be really hard to let go of some of that and then know like and trust that we'll be able to pay for that person. But the thing is it's like, I say this often, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. There's no way that it's sustainable if you really want to grow a business and it's just you know? And I think that a lot, I've heard this at many conferences, I'm sure you have too, of people saying like one of their biggest regrets was not hiring sooner, you know, like just because once you have that person, like I can't wait till she starts with you next month because I just want to hear about it. I feel like it's going to take a lot off of you. I think the business is going to continue to grow. And like you said, you know, so what is the worst thing that can happen? And that's where you asking the right questions, right? To get to the root of like, can I handle the worst case scenario? And I often, when we ask that question, we're like, oh, I can handle that. But we so get caught up in just like the surface level stuff that we don't go deep enough to really figure out like, I can handle this. It's going to be okay. And then look at the other side. It's really going to help grow the business. And I love what you said too. Like not your complete identity isn't the business. Like you have a relationship with the business. There's more to your life, obviously. And as entrepreneurs, it's easy to get really caught up in our business and have that be the top priority and take all of our time. And so I just love looking at it that way of like the relationship to you and the business.
Yeah, it was a huge milestone moment for me last year when it's like I remember being in a mastermind and like there was this fissure of like, oh my gosh, like I have been so like they've been so intertwined and like it's okay to be separate and healthy. It's not just okay, it's like necessary.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. It's very unhealthy the other way. Yeah. I know. It's so funny how we do that. But again, like, I mean, we're just building something, you know, it's our baby. We have a vision, we have a dream, and it's so easy to get so caught up. But talk about also just maintaining being sustainable and not burnout. Like that's another way where people are burning out because it's like everything you give is to your business and you just can't.
Yeah. I didn't even realize how burnt out I was because I don't necessarily, I had a pretty easy schedule in the sense I wasn't working 60-hour weeks. I was probably working 20, 30-hour weeks, right? So I was like, I can't be burnt out. I'm working. But it's like my mind was so attached that like that was like, even if I wasn't working, quote unquote, I was like so attached that I never really had that space. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and you tell me we can cut this if you don't want to talk about it, but you did end up in the hospital. Like it was, and that was from like you overdid it, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of things that I'm happy to talk about that. So yeah,
okay.
I did. That was a few years ago. And like on top of, I think a little bit of burnout, I was also striving in a direction that was not my zone of genius. And I had invested in some coaching and a mastermind. And it was like, there was some ways in which that like totally expanded me. And then there were some ways in which I got into this, like, well, I have to do it the way that everybody else is doing it. And I started like trying to sell VIP days and like, I don't know, I was doing all kinds of stuff. And then I had a launch. Like I had set a big goal for a launch and I achieved what felt like a fraction of that. And that crushed me. And then we also, we got evacuated for Hurricane Florence. And we like in the middle of the launch, we were out of town and I was like nervous, like overwhelmingly nervous about what was going to happen to our home. All kinds of attachments. Yeah. And then a month later I was in the hospital with like this mystery infection. So yeah.
It's pretty amazing how the body acts and reacts to stress. And to your point, like you don't have to be working 80-hour weeks to like physically be working. Your mind is always going. And I so can relate. I had like crazy town chills when you were talking about I was in these masterminds and I took on others' ideas and doing other things like VIP days that I wasn't my core model. And then we did a launch and then it was not at all where I thought it would be. Oh my God, Laura, I have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's like just lost my voice, change the business. Oh, that's working. Let's stop doing that. Let's try something totally different that somebody else is doing. And it totally failed for us too. And it's a lot, like it's hard because you put in a lot of hard work to create all the new copy and how we're going to deliver it. And there's so much that goes into it. And you're so excited too. And you think this is going to be epic. And then when it crashes and burns, and that happens, right? Like it's not guaranteed that it's going to be this wild success. It takes the wind out of your sails. Like it's so tough. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but for me, like it happened several times in a row. And it's like, gosh, you got to get back up and do it again. Like, I don't know if I have the energy for this. Like, how many times do you get knocked down before you're like, I'm doing I'm out, it's tough, but through it, you learn so much. And unfortunately, sometimes we got to take a step backwards to go forward. And that step backwards was you in the hospital. But I feel like I watched you through that process, like really questioned and reevaluated your life and what was going on and how much you were going to take on and boundaries. And you've been a lot better since, thankfully.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah. It really has been, huge. Cause it was scary because you think like, what is wrong, like with my body? What is wrong with me? Like there's just so much to unpack following a situation like that. Yeah.
No kidding. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to work through that, but you did. And I'm just so glad that you did and you made it out on the other side. I love it. Okay. So tell me, what are 3 key lessons or tips that really propelled you to get to your current level in terms of impact and or revenue?
Yeah. So I have 1 from the real estate side and then 2 from the business side. So 1 from the real estate side that we kind of fell into, and I didn't realize, like it took me a few times to realize how powerful this was, but like how powerful it is to leverage debt to grow your real estate. And like both of the houses that we have now, like a substantial portion of the down payment came from houses that we sold in Colorado, where we were able to take that equity and essentially like 5 to 10x the value of the real estate that we could have domain over by selling and buying bigger, right? So, and then to see that over the last couple of years with how the housing market is rising again, to see that actually generate like additional equity that would have never happened if we had like, my goal at the beginning was like, we are going to like pay down this house as quickly as possible. And like, we're going to be debt free in 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It was always something different. But like, now it's like, I don't really have that goal. It's like, because it all circulates and pays for itself. It's less about becoming debt free. Of course, like this isn't credit card debt, right? This is real estate debt. So it's different. Right. But like, how can we leverage, like we're already like, okay, now how can we leverage this equity into additional investments that will continue to expand what we're doing?
Exactly. Yeah. And before you share your other 2 tips, I just have to say that I have so been in that state of mind of like, pay down the house debt, let's be debt free, financially free, like all. And my mentor, Patricia, who's been on the show, is very big into real estate investing too. And she's like, look, you could do it however you want, but I got to tell you, you can leverage the debt. And yes, you're going more in debt, but you're building your assets. And it was like mind blowing for me. And I was learning about HELOCs and I'm like, wow, I have a little bank here. Like I've got my own bank. Then the interest rate is typically lower when you're taking out from your house and you're putting it a down payment on another property and you could pay that back. But it's like, it's kind of that risk. I get nervous about spending the money or investing the money and taking on more debt. But what's the worst that can happen, right? Just like you asked. And so going through those numbers, like anything, there's some risk there, but it's such a great way to build your wealth. And what a great tip. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the other 2?
Yeah. So in Bridging the Gap, we talked a little bit about this, but delegating before I was ready, right? So I hired my first VA, well, first it was a bookkeeper, and then it was like, I just need some help with some customer support emails. And it was 6 to 12 months into my business. And I do feel like, I have been slow to hire, like to do the big hires, but I've been quick to do like the little bits of help. And also very iterative in terms of always looking at like what tasks are really not enjoyable to me that I can let go of, either eliminate completely or delegate to somebody else, and constantly in that process of letting go and shedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Love it.
You can't have the freedom that you want in your business without that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Stacy said on one of our masterminds, she said, I don't know who she said it to, but she was like, you're investing that money for more time off for yourself. And when I heard her say that, it really resonated for me, because it's like time off and more freedom, whatever I'm going to do with that. I might be spending it on my business still, but in different strategic ways, or thinking, or I'm traveling, or whatever I want to do. But that investment in somebody so I can have time. And then ideally they are growing the business and helping support in a lot of different ways. But it's so critical to delegate, to free you up so you can be more in your zone of genius and do whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah. Love it. What's your third one?
I would say the third one, I'm having trouble getting the right words around this, but what I feel like is like I have this loyal team, and especially like on our, we have kind of think of the team in two areas, like our operations team, which does all the marketing and behind the scenes and is like in the business on a daily basis. But then we also have an instructor team, because there's a lot of instructor support behind our program. And like, I feel like it's magical sometimes, the people that we find and the people, like the loyalty they have somewhat to me, but also just really to the company and to the work that we do. So I feel like it somewhat comes from me like genuinely caring about them, but also creating a transformation for our people that makes it easier for people to care about. And that's especially from our instructors, right? Like they are so excited about the results people get through the program. I feel like they put up with a lot from us, right? And like we'll just constantly be there and like go above and beyond to serve people. And the business really doesn't work without everybody being involved in that way.
Yeah, totally. It's meaningful work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty powerful when people are in a job or contract work or position or whatever where it's meaningful.
Yeah.
And they're making a difference. They get to see the transformation. And then also to your point of just caring too, like one of our partners, Bob Nagin, talks about an emotional bank account. Like you've got to fill the emotional bank account. And, you should be doing that with your customers and your clients, but with your team too. Like, I mean, everybody you really want to try to invest in. And it sounds like you've got a good balance there. So those are great tips. I love it. And lessons. So I'm a very curious person. I think you know this. And I'm curious where your curiosity is right now. What kind of questions have you been asking yourself lately?
Yeah, I've really been asking myself the question of like having gotten to a point of achieving like a certain amount of time freedom and financial freedom. And there's still more coming there. But like, okay, so what do I actually want to do, right, with my time? Because it seemed like this, like someday I'm going to have time freedom, right? Someday, and I'll figure it out then. It's like, well, okay, it's almost here. Like, what am I going to do? And do I really want to just be like sipping margaritas on the beach, or do I want to be like, how much do I want to be contributing, and how do I do that in a way that feels good and that I can still have boundaries around in case, I want to go do something else. So really just exploring like, what does time freedom look like and what contribution I'm here for. And one of the things that's come up for me specifically around that is wanting to invest in a regenerative farm and put that in place here in North Carolina. And so a lot of that free time has like gotten consumed by like learning about farming and how to grow a farm business. And which is sort of, so there's a lot of curiosity just around that as well. Like it's pretty awesome.
So much curiosity. And you have to talk a little bit about it, because it's like business analysts, online business, teaching business analysts to farm.
Yeah.
It's like so different. So I know that you're in the early stages of all of this, but can you just kind of share just a little bit of like how that came up for you or where you're at right now?
Yeah. So I was in a mastermind this past year with Kate Northrup, and it was about how to apply regenerative agriculture practices to your business. So it was not about like starting a farm, but like, and then we watched this documentary called Kiss the Ground. And so when like what my takeaway from that was like how we do farming is actually how we can reclaim carbon. And like that is the root, like going back to the genius, like that is the root cause solution to climate change. And like, it was just like a smack in the forehead of like, oh, the solution is like right here. And it's not, I mean, maybe it's becoming more widely known, but like I had no clue about this a year ago. So, so that was that. And then part of it also is just from a health perspective. And this does go back to being sick a bit, but like really like, what is the food that has the true nutrients that nourishes the body? And that also comes back to a lot of these practices that really focus on the carbon cycle and really healthy soil, which creates a whole different quality of food than what you can even get like at an organic product at a grocery store.
Wow.
And so it's really a desire. Again, it's like that desire leading the way of like, I want that food and I want to be doing something meaningful. And like, how do I create that?
How do you bridge the gap?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I can't wait to see where you go with this and go visit your farm. And, I'm not like, there's so much that I can learn about that. I don't know much at all. I should. I'll have to check out, it's Kiss the Ground. Is that what it was?
Yeah. It's a Netflix documentary. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. But I love how you're like learning how to take those skills and put them into business, but you're like, I'm actually just going to start a farm.
Oh, this was metaphorical, but I'm also like, I love the metaphor of it too. And I do want to like teach people some of the metaphors, like come and see the farm and see what's happening. And then how does this apply in other areas of your life and kind of have that be part of the story.
Oh, chills, Laura.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Thank you.
This is such a great conversation. I so appreciate you being here. I just thank you so much for being open and honest. And will you tell people how they can learn more about you and connect with you online?
For sure. You can learn more about my company for business analysts at bridgingthegap.com. It does have hyphens in it, so bridging-the-gap.com. And I'm on like LinkedIn is probably my main social media platform. I'm also on Instagram as This is Laura Brandenburg. So
love it. And we'll link to all of that as well. Laura, one more cheers here. This was so great.
Cheers.
Thank you so much Thank you so much, Laura, for your time and everybody who listened. And I will see you on the next See You. Bye.
Thank you, Crystal.
All right, let's keep this conversation going. Join me on Instagram. I'm at Crystal Uncorked. And I need to tell you, thank you so much for listening to this show. It truly means the world to me. If you're enjoying Crystal Uncorked, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Okay, I'll see you on the next See You. Cheers, friend.